everyone. Welcome to The Path of Me. I'm your host, Wendy Hutchinson, and my guest today is the beautiful Liliana Hernandez. She is a she's the director of a mental health clinic, but she also has a virtual coaching practice, private practice, and she also leads a virtual group. She's a group supervisor. So she has a very full and incredible life. She's a mother to two really handsome and amazing sons in their 20s and a little baby schnauzer named Sebastian. I think that we covered it all. So welcome, Liliana.
Thank you. Thank you, Wendy. It's so good to see you again.
Oh my gosh. It has been a minute. It's been a hot minute since we've seen each other. And every time we talk, there's something about Liliana and my energy. We kind of, it's just, I don't know what it is, Liliana, about you, but when we talk, which is not very often, it's almost like we start to combust or something, like our energies just like start to I think the excitement particles go crazy. Our energy is like super, super high. But anyway, I know that this has been such a big year. Last year was such a big year for you. I think all of us have gone through so many changes with this pandemic, working from home, adjustments. You just bought a new home. So I'm just going to let you start and tell me kind of what's been going on with you this past year.
Thank you, Wendy. Thank you again. Thank you so much for inviting me back on. I think for everybody, listening, 2020 has probably been a year. Some of it good, some of it maybe not so good. And I think like everybody else, I've also had a lot going on. So yes, I just recently moved into my new home. So last time we spoke, I had recently moved into that home, which was like my dream home. I had manifested it. I found it. I saw it before. It waited for me, moved in, enjoyed my beautiful view for as long as I did. And then I just sort of kind of began to percolate with this new dream, right? And early in 2020, like January, February, before any of the madness, I just thought, I've been here for about 2.5 years. I love it, but I need to move forward. There was something else that was calling me to kind of do something different. So I was still working, at my agent. I'm still working at the agency. I was working at the agency. I was driving into Huntington Park, which for me on a good day is probably like an hour, 20 minutes, give or take.
That's an hour and 40 commute. That's a long
one way
for you. Wow.
So I'd start really early. Sometimes, God forbid there was like rain, because it's a 2.5 hour, 3 hour commute one way, and it becomes craziness. Yeah. So I was already at that point like, okay, I need something different. I need to kind of, reel it in a little bit. Maybe if I moved a little bit closer, I'd be a little bit happier, etc. And the pandemic hits, right? And it was like a halt on a few things. And I thought, okay, we're going to work from home. Great. Oh my gosh. Because I did the math. I was literally commuting 15 hours a week, Wendy.
Oh my gosh. On top of such a demanding workload, I can't believe. And you're probably working on Bluetooth, right, on the phone as you're driving too, probably. Oh my gosh, that must have been so exhausting.
It was mentally, emotionally exhausting, and physically, because I didn't realize what a toll it was taking on my body, sitting in a car for 15 hours a week, maybe an hour and a half in, hour and a half back, maybe an hour in, 2 back. It kind of depended, but it averaged 15 hours. So I thought, wow, I get to work from home. Like, okay, like, let's make it happen, right? So certain orders were brought in, and we got to work from home, and I went from 15 hours a week to 0. And I was like, okay. And I did that for quite some time. There's so many things that happened, Wendy. I don't even know where to start, honestly. One, my beautiful, beloved lady ended up getting sick in about February. We had had her already for like maybe 14, 15 years. And Had it not been for the pandemic, nobody in the family would have realized she was deteriorating. And we just thought she was getting slower and quieter and, you
Right.
know, but being home, we were like, no, this is not
You
right.
could
Wait, what's
really
going on?
observe her during the day and see the decline.
Oh my gosh. So from February to, we shut down on the 18th of March. So from March 18th to April 14th, that we were taking her to I took her to 3 vets because according to me, nobody knew what they were doing. Nope, yes, like
You kind of
change
want to
my,
keep going for a different opinion,
yeah.
but then they keep giving you the same opinion, and you're
So the
like,
last one was like, honey,
oh,
I don't want to take your money. She's older and X, Y, and Z is happening, and she's a little bit in pain, and so we made the hard choice. Oh, it's
oh.
still hard.
Our pets are like our children.
So much so. But the good thing from that was that we got to spend a good 4 to 5 weeks with her that we wouldn't have because we were all working and traveling, and we would literally come home to sleep and start over the
Mm-hmm.
next day. So I was like, this was meant to happen.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. So that happened. And then I thought, who sells a house during a pandemic? Like, that's crazy. Stop it. And so we had gotten into a couple of different conversations, and my boys and I, my partner and I thought, all right, let's make this happen. So we called out, we put our house on the market, and there was movement, and we had got an offer, and I was like, oh my God, this is happening. Like, oh my God, oh my God. So that was in movement, right? I was, still mourning the pain of my dog. I mean, we had her for 14 years, working from home. We have our other dog, our other German Shepherd / Queen's Healer. She's a ham, so she kept us going, and she got to be the only baby for a while. And working from home, so the private practice really picked up. I work my regular 9 to 5. I have a couple of clients in the evening, and then I picked up a group to do supervision for. So I got to do that. I've been doing that for some time.
You love it?
Love it. Love it. Anytime I'm in supervision, I know I'm on. It's
You feel like
different.
you're
Like
just right in your lane, like just right
that's
where you belong.
yes.
That's your sweet spot.
That's my sweet spot.
Mm-hmm.
It kind of reminds me of Beyonce when she would talk about being Sasha Fierce. I'm like, yes, like I'm in my element. I love the teaching aspect of it.
Mm-hmm.
So been working on that, and there's all this movement going on, and there was moments that I would stop to reflect. I know there's a lot going on in the world, and people are passing, and illnesses, and all initially, right, all the shortages in the food and the toilet paper. I'm still confused about. I and I just thought, and my family's getting to connect. We're all under the same roof at the same time. We're talking more, we're communicating, we're enjoying each other. And honestly, I think that was the first time from March that the pandemic hit till I closed on my home eventually in at the end of November, that I got to enjoy my house.
Yeah, you were actually
home. I would wake up every morning to this view that I didn't have to rush off to get into traffic. And then there was a couple of incidents, because I will be honest with you, there was 2 snake incidents, there was a lizard incident, and then I was like,
oh my God,
this is my sign. For sale, we're out. I always teased, I was like, I will burn this house down if one more snake comes into this home. Because I'm terrified. I'm not afraid to put it out there. I'm like, I'm sure there's like
but your place sold pretty quickly.
It did. So for me, it was like, it was a sign. It was a meant to be. It took the time it needed to be able to get into my new home. That was for sure.
Right. So it kind of lined up perfectly. You were able to find something right away, and
there was a little in between, and again, things happen for a reason. I sold my home. Mine was in the process. My home took 20 days from beginning to end to be mine. The only thing was that the tenants that sold it to me, the owners that sold it to me, needed until the 5th of January, because they were moving into a retirement
Oh,
community,
they
and
had to
that's
wait
when.
till it was available for them to move.
So that was the only reason why I had to wait an extra
Mhm.
couple of weeks of I ended up having to house my dogs with me, and there were certain places that I stayed at because I couldn't at my mom's, and so it was a whole different story because I was literally sometimes living out of my car. I had somewhere to live, but I
You're
like
so
being dramatic.
resilient, though. One thing I know about you is you find solutions. You find
Oh,
solutions
I
always.
will make it happen, right?
And I think,
So
but
yeah.
before you go forward, I just want to let our listeners know, because not everybody knows your backstory.
Mm,
But Liliana's story, go back and listen to our prior interviews because she has overcome so much adversity. She was a single mom. She put herself through college. She went on this insane weight loss journey, transformed her entire life, um, got her master's. I mean, this woman is incredible. But she's not only incredible in, the terms that we would, recognize as success, but the transformation she's gone on as a woman is amazing. Like what you have accomplished in your life and the inner growth and change and transformation, which is continually happening, has been so inspiring. So if you guys, if you haven't heard our other interview, go back in the archives and check it out because she actually made me cry the last time we were. I didn't even think to bring any tissue this time, but
no.
hopefully I won't cry in this one. But anyway,
Thank you. Thank you for that reminder, Wendy, because often we're just like so moving forward,
forward
right?
driven always,
Forward
right?
always. And it's good to be able to look back, so yes, tons of stuff. My boy's dad, and just to go back a little bit, my baby was 30 days old when we separated. So my boys knew nothing but mom and dad not living together. And he's been such a force in my life, not only with my kids, but even moving into this home. He actually helped me do a couple of repairs in my old home where he installed a floor and gave it a lot of value. And here he's been so great, and he shows up after work and he does a couple of projects, and he's taught my boys how to install flooring, how to install baseboards, how to skim walls. My son just put in a sink. This man he's been such a part. And I say that because recently I've run into a lot of, in my private practice, clients talking about how they're not getting their separation happening all over the place because of living under the same roof, and like we're spending too much time
There's
together
so many
now.
stressors, right? This pandemic has really showed us that our relationship is either really strong or it's a disaster and it's not going to make it, right? It's going to go one of two ways, man, when you're together
Right,
24/7.
right.
So much
So
truth
I
comes to the surface that you can't escape from. You can't go to work and
it,
cut it off and pretend it's not happening. It's like right in your
exactly,
face, right?
all day, every day,
All day.
24/7.
Yeah.
So it's just been such a blessing to kind of see the growth on both of our ends, right? To be able to come together. And it's something that I really, really try to put through to a lot of parents, because one of the other things that I did in this craziness, especially in the pandemic, I went live a couple of times, Wendy, on Instagram Live with, yes, I had the beautiful Vanessa um, Martinez reach out to me. She had been on oh my god, the show right now, I'm drawing a blank, but my son met her. She reached out to me when we went on Instagram Live, and we did a couple of conversations about like just during the pandemic stuff and connecting and how to. So there's I think I went all over the place, but part of it to say, that we can become friends with our ex-partners, and we can raise really beautiful children that thrive in life we connect, if we're able to get on the same page
Yeah.
so that our kids see healthy
Healthy
relationships.
co-parenting is such a gift for the entire family. And I think it's so hard because when people separate and split, there's a lot of wounds.
Oh, yes.
There's a lot of wounds, and people project their wounds on each other, which
Oh,
exacerbate
definitely.
the drama, and they escalate in such a unhealthy way, which is so hard. I can imagine for you being in the field you're in. It must be really heartbreaking to bear witness to, because people often cannot see beyond their wounds. They can only respond through the filter and lens through which they're viewing things, which kind of closes you off. So it doesn't really give you an opportunity to really
Yeah.
be present and hear any other perspectives, or be open to maybe responding in a more elevated way to your circumstances, right?
Beautifully said. Beautifully said. Absolutely. And as you were going back and reminded me of kind of, where I come from, because I don't forget. It is that part. I was talking to another client. We were talking about parenting, co-parenting, healing, and her comment was like, well, but you're a therapist, so therefore, right? Like, what do you
Oh, like you didn't do all of your inner work to get to this place.
Right.
And,
we always struggle with like disclosure, appropriate disclosure, whatever, and I thought there was so many thoughts that crossed my mind. Like, I've been on welfare. I received food stamps. I was living in a Section 8 apartment, right? I was born in, I don't want to call it in my hood, but it wasn't Beverly Hills.
right.
And we all have our struggles, and what do we do with that, and how do we overcome, and to be able to just sit there and say, you know what, I have come through I've done a lot, you're right, and if I could do it, yeah, so can you.
Exactly. It's all about personal choices. You made the choices that brought you to this place where you are today.
Selling a home during a pandemic, buying a new home during a pandemic, moving in, and then thinking, there was a moment, Wendy, I'm going to share with you, everybody, I think we've all come to this, like, oh my God, what did I do? Oh my God, what did I do? And then the panic sets in and the anxiety rises.
You have a panic attack?
I did. In front of my child.
Oh no.
Driving here. So I've been literally living here 3 weeks now, even though we got it January 5th, because there was a lot of things we had to do, right? Like I said, flooring, like there was green carpet with a yellow wall. Imagine that.
I'm glad you could see beyond it to get the house. And
yes, I did. I was like, the potential, oh my God, the place, the area, the community, beautiful. And I was sitting in the car driving here, and I just had a moment, and I just felt this overwhelm, and it just rose, and it just sort of boiled through my eyes, and there was just tears. And my son's like, Mom, are you okay? Because he was driving. And I was like, just give me a moment. And I was like,
oh no. You were overwhelmed.
Because I knew I was driving into like overwhelm. And I was like, I took off 9 days off of work because I'm like, I need to focus and make this happen. And I just, and then I said, it's just a lot. It's so much. And then he puts his hand on my knee, and he's like, it's okay, Mom. It's okay. It's okay. And then like the light turns green and he's driving. And then I was like, oh, okay, I needed that moment.
You just needed to have that release.
Needed it.
And just let it process through your field and be like, okay, I got this.
I got this.
Yeah.
Right. And it's so interesting because I often tell clients, right? Like, you have to feel the feeling, stop stuffing them down, stop, feel it, be in it, right? Where do you feel it? And I literally sat there and I was like, it was all in my chest, coming through my throat. And then I know my hands were like, because I've been doing a lot of like stuff in my hands. And I was like, oh my God. And then it just sort of like poured out. And then there was a moment where I was like, I look over at him and I was like, okay, I'm good now. And then he's like, I look on his face like,
What just happened?
crazy. I knew it all along because I just had a smile like, okay, I'm good. I just needed that moment, right? And I thought for a second, I was like, that was embarrassing. Oh my God, your kid must think you've lost it or you're fragile, which is always a fear of mine. For somebody to think that I'm fragile, I was
To
like,
see
no,
your
I got this.
vulnerability, especially your child, right? Who you try to show up for and protect and be strong for. But I think sometimes when
Exactly.
we show our vulnerability, it gives them permission to be vulnerable.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I was like, so when I smiled and he's like, the look on his face was terror,
What just happened?
right? And then I said, I just needed that moment. I'm good now. Oh, I feel so much better. And he was like, okay. And I know that he came in and he shared with my other son that he had slept over with the dog. I know he shared it. And I saw them very gentle all day with me. Mom,
Oh,
are you tired? Go sit down. We're gonna go. You go get lunch. We got this. Don't worry about it. Are
no.
you tired? Go. No, you know what? Go home already. Because I was at this point, I went back to my mom's. He's like, go home. Go home. Put your feet up. Go home. We got this. And I was like, oh,
What a gift for you to
that's the
have
best.
this precious time with your kids in their 20s, spending this time together as a family, which you've never had, honestly,
Not like this.
right? You guys have
Not like
always been
this.
working, you've always been on the run, to ships passing in the night, maybe meeting at the fridge for a snack at 9 or something, right? Everybody's
Right?
living their own lives. So I think in a lot of ways, this time has been a gift. I think if you're not um, in the space to really, if you're in an uncomfortable space, this time could have been a real challenge.
Definitely.
And it feels like a lot of truth bubbles to the surface when we have time to process and we have more downtime and we are more present and quiet with ourselves and we're not doing those long commutes and we don't have the distractions of meeting friends out for dinner or whatever all of our life distractions or maybe avoidance patterns are.
Oh, thank you.
So
Avoidance patterns. I say that all the time because you're right. We go from work to socializing, having a drink, having dinner, catching up with this girlfriend, even in the car, right? I'm always like, and this was my thought, and maybe I think I talked about this last time. In my car drive, it's like podcast time, right? I'm listening audible book. I'm like, I'm learning, I'm catching up on stuff. But then there becomes the moment that you're like, what was I distracting myself from? My own thoughts, my own hurts, my own pains, things that I needed to think about and really process. Oh, nope, nope, nope. Book, listening,
and
Brene
you get in
Brown,
the
whatever.
pattern of it too. You get in the habit of it. So it's like, honestly, weeks can go by or months can go by where you don't really have connection or presence with yourself because I'm sorry, I don't know what's going on over here, but there is some crazy stuff going on with my hair. Sorry about it. People on the podcast don't care, but I don't know what's happening here.
It's cute.
It's untamed. I'm untamed.
Untamed.
But anyways, I found that really creating space and holding space for ourselves is something we have to do intentionally. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't just happen. And if we don't create the time and space for it, we lose touch and connection with ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Somehow, and it happens so gradually, like you don't even realize it's happening
Right.
until something will trigger you or something will happen and you're like, whoa,
Yeah.
wait, what? you know
And when you say that, the image that came to mind is that we become so disconnected from ourselves that we start asking, why am I not happy? Why do I feel this way? Because you're thinking of like, I have friends, I'm socializing, I'm in, I'm out. I go get a massage, I go get my nails done, self-care, self-care,
Mhm.
self-care, right? In
External
quotes,
self-care.
external, but our internal, when you're so, and sometimes the way I see it is like that glass, right? When you're giving and giving and giving from the contained, as opposed to giving from the outpour, right?
Mhm.
When you give from the excess, you're good. If not, you're taking from you.
Right. When you're pouring from an empty cup, you and so many women do it. I think it's almost like a program. It's like we're programmed to serve.
Give, 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 give,
We're
give,
so
give, give.
programmed to show up, to give to our families, to show up in our communities, to volunteer, to show up for our clients if you're in a profession like you and I. And so we're so programmed to give, we forget to give to ourselves. And that was a huge shift when I took a pause, which I did last year. I took this pause and I actually just stopped. I literally stopped everything towards the end of last year, and I just sat with myself. And it was the first time I ever poured all the energy I was giving out in.
Mm.
And it was really impactful. I had never given myself permission to do that because I was always so busy and so outward focused and being service oriented. And I went through such huge shifts, not only just being intentional about pouring energy and love back into myself, but also feeling worthy of receiving it.
Oh.
That was big. That worthiness piece, like, wow, do I really deserve this
Right.
level of love and joy and magic?
And as you say that, I'm thinking how crazy that that's where our mind goes, because we don't, when have you ever sat and thought, are they worthy of this? No, just give. There you
Right.
go. We show up. Wait, no, but when it's poured inward, we doubt it, right? And what does it feel like? Oh, like I shouldn't be doing this. This needs to go to everybody. And mind you, there's a great balance, but when you don't pour inward, and there's a lot of clients that I currently have that they're having such a hard time pouring inward.
Right.
There's all sorts of discussions of everything that they're doing during this pandemic. I'm giving, I'm donating blood, I'm you name it, volunteering and doing for others. And then they're
But
unhappy.
it's also a distraction.
There we go back to those distractions,
Right?
right?
It's also a distraction from our true nature, our true stuff, maybe a little avoidance, or maybe it's just subconscious because we're so in that mode of service. That's what good women do. You show up, you bake a casserole and take it to your
Right.
sick friend.
Right.
You spend an hour on the phone with a girlfriend who's having a hard time or a client who's texting you at 9 at night. And so a huge thing was boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
Boundaries was so important. Self-love, self-care, in a true sense. I would say soul care, soul love, not just
Big self.
physical self-love.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I love that.
So what did you learn about yourself through this whole process, going through all these shifts? You had a traumatic loss of a beloved pet, and a sale, a purchase, a new work environment, a new family dynamic. What changed for you, or what realizations came up for you going through all of this?
That as much as that I have to give to others, that I also have enough for myself. And
Yeah.
when you say boundaries, learning to say no without feeling, oh, what are they going to
Guilty.
think? Oh, guilty. Oh, what are they? Oh, they're going to think I'm the worst. Because being able to say, oh, that's not going to work for me. Can we do X, Y, and Z? Or, sister, I really want to do that, but my calendar is really crazy right now. Do you think brother can help you? Right? Like giving it back and not sitting there like, oh, you know what? I should just go ahead and do it because she's going to think I'm the worst. No, like we all have to have those healthy boundaries and learning how to say no, and learning to say yes to yourself. Right? What do I
Yes.
want to do? I also learned, and all of this is, you always go through this like, oh, I'm such a strong female, and I'm, look at me and look at what I've done, and I've gone through, and I've been a single parent, and I've gone to school, and I've had, these accolades or whatnot. But also, how do I care for myself? right? How do I care for myself to be able to give? Because at the end of the day, it's okay to give.
Yeah, but you have to have something to give. You have to have that extra. I think one of the things that I love is something I posted a while ago. It was like you can light the candle of another without diminishing your own,
Yes,
right?
yes, yes. And so in the beginning of the year, like pandemic, I was home. The 15 hours that I was doing for commuting, I was like, this has to be reinvested into something different,
Yeah.
something for me, something I want to do. So I
Yeah.
started a woman support group. When you said Untamed, I was like, oh, that's right. I had a book club. I had a virtual book club with the book Untamed. So it started on a whim. I posted something about it. One of the girls that she I had never met her. She's like, "Oh my God, I'd love to read that book." I was like, "Well, let's do this virtual book club." And then I got a couple of different girlfriends, and people added other people, and we had these couple of weeks of like going over this book, which was great. I loved Untamed. Glennon Doyle, loved that book, and it taught me a lot too from that.
Awesome.
There was all these different transformations throughout the year that I thought, at this point, I thought, I love, before, Wendy, and I'll say this, is before I used to be really worried and scared of trying something new, right? I like my organization. I'm a Virgo, like sometimes to a fault, where I'm like, this is what I like, this is how it needs to look, and this is how I'm going to plow forward. And then I'm like, wait, why are you worried? Why are you scared? Do it. Book club, never done one? Okay, figure it out. Host it. Have a conversation.
You're
There's nothing to
breaking these
say.
barriers, and look at all the positive response and growth you're getting for yourself, not only for yourself, but for everybody who's participating too.
Yes,
You're
right.
bringing your years of coaching and therapy, and you're such a wealth of information. So what better person to facilitate these book clubs and these groups, and just whoever's working with you, they're so lucky to have you.
Oh, thank you for that. But that's how it went with like even my women's support group, right? Like we met and it was women that, interesting, that's a different story, but that worked out really well. There was a couple of women that had reached out to me and they're like, Liliana, I still want to work with you. And I said, well, let's, you all sort of feel like it needs the same thing. How about we do a group? Great. It was in Spanish. It worked. It went on for a few weeks, probably like 8 or 9 weeks. It just, everything kind of worked out. And I kept thinking, you keep jumping into these things you're always scared to do. Going
Awesome.
live was like my fear, but Vanessa reached out to me and I thought, I'm not going to get this opportunity again.
Right.
I got such good response. I had viewers, people that were listening from her end, because she has tons of following, and reaching out to me. You said this really resonated. The
Oh,
example
isn't
you
that
gave with this.
wonderful when you
Oh my
realize, oh my
gosh.
gosh, someone actually heard me. That had impact, that created impact for someone. That is so awesome.
Yeah, and I was like,
Congratulations.
thank you. It was just like, wow, okay. So, and then I ended up going live with a couple of different friends, and we'll talk about mental health and just self-care and stuff like that. And then I realized, I'm like, this is good. This is the movement that I've been wanting to sort of put in place when that new dream fell into my heart, right?
Mhm.
So my goal is to continue moving forward. I really want to have a little bit of property with I want a house with property, which is why I invested in this one, because I feel like it's just going to kind of give over to that. I want to have a little bit of property, and I want to kind of continue doing a couple of different things outside of that. And the realization is, you can, right? You can. When sometimes I'm like, no, but if this, then that, the other, right?
It's so
I've
easy to
also,
shut ourselves down from the dream, right? Talk ourselves out of the dream. We're so good at it. We're like masters at it, right? Like,
so
oh,
good.
it's not time. Like, I just need to wait for this, that, or the other to happen, or for me to get more experience, or, I mean, you name it, right? We can talk ourselves out of anything.
Tons of
And then I
things.
can also justify all kinds of bad habits. Like right now, I'm on a brownie addiction and key lime pie. I'm like, I can just work on that tomorrow. I need to go have that brownie right
One way or the
now.
other, right?
Too.
We justify it.
We can justify anything, right?
All the time, right? And I just thought, I've learned, the other thing I learned during this time, Wendy, is that I never considered myself to be me, my self voice. I'm not a really creative person. I'm not really creative. I don't know. Right. And then I was like, I'm gonna do this. And then I painted this. And then I painted my wall. And then I wanted this type of bathroom. And
It
then
was all
so
just
in my
kind of downloading into you, like all these ideas and colors, and you sparked
my
something.
I sold my home looking so beautiful, Wendy. The layout, the colors. I redid my bathroom. The floors.
No wonder it sold so fast.
Well, that too. And okay, so my partner, handyman, beat to like the 10th degree. So he came in, he put toilets, and I'm watching you. I want to be able to do that myself, right? Now, So there's things that I learned that in this home, I'm like, I could do that, right? My son, the handiest, these boys are handy. Like they installed these closets. I'm looking at mine right now and I'm thinking, they did these things, right? Like I learned to do these things and I would pick up hammers and I painted and I thought and I schemed and I,
There's something
organized.
so satisfying about actually seeing it come to life,
Yes.
execute it yourself.
Oh my gosh. So, one of the things that I posted when I got my keys to my house was, 2020 has been rough in many ways for many people in different ways, but there's also been blessings in it.
Totally.
There's been blessings. So my boys were to come to my newest addition for baby, Sebastian. The boys were like, Mom, do you, and I was like, no, 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 I'm not ready. Mother's Day, right? She had just passed in April. No, Papa. In June, July, no, August, no. And they're like, we're done asking you. Surprise. And
It was just what you needed, right?
it's what so here, and I was like, do I share this or not? I'm going to be transparent as always. For my birthday, they got me a schnauzer, a white with gray. He came home, fell in love with this baby. We called him Hershey Boy. Backstory to Hershey Boy: my son used to have this little bunny rabbit he carried everywhere. His name was initially Amy, but because they confused it for being a girl, one day he got really upset and he's like, it's not a girl. And I go, Papa, they say she because Amy is kind of like and he's like, okay, I'm going to change the name. It's Hershey Boy. And I was like, okay. Well, from that moment forward, it was Hershey Boy. So this baby came home. It reminded us of Hershey Boy. So we named it Hershey Boy. It came with parvo.
Oh no, did
We
you
had it. We did. So I had him for 36 hours, took him to the hospital, stayed Friday, Saturday, Sunday, passed on Monday. I was heartbroken. Heartbroken. I was like, this. It was.
That's like rip the Band-Aid twice, right?
I was like, oh, I can't do this. I can't. And
oh my God.
my boys they're the best. They're like, Mom, it wasn't our intention to hurt you. We wanted, to make you happy, and we're so sorry. And I was like, no, babes, it's not your guys' fault. Like this happens. He came with parvo and it just develops, and I guess these things happen. So my son, if nothing, he's persistent. 2 weeks later, he came home with Sebastian. And I was like, I can't. Why do you like to hurt me? Stop it. And then he's like, just look at it. Just look at this face. And I was like, oh my
God. It took 2 seconds, right? And then you're in love. That was it.
In love. And he's like, it's a boy. He's black and white. What are you gonna name him? So it took me a couple of days, and Sebastian, he has such a personality. He's such a ham.
Fit right in, made himself right at home.
And he's like, he knows he's not boss, because my German Shepherd is like, I will check you real quick. But he loves playing with her, and he's currently at like the terrible 2 stage, where everything is like, no, stop, no, don't, no. He might.
Or he thinks his name is No.
Exactly. So.
Oh gosh.
I had a couple of scares with him, and I was at the, I think I was overly paranoid, so I was at the vet a couple of times. But he came in at the time that I needed.
Things just seem to show up at the right time, and even if we think it's the wrong time, it's the right time. Even if it's a tragedy or a loss, it comes at the right time because it's showing up to trigger something in us, right? Some sort of it's a growth opportunity when those
Definitely.
difficult things come in. And I think what's been very interesting to observe in my own life is that the most devastating things have actually turned out to be the biggest gifts.
Mm,
When you're in it, you're just so in so much pain. You're like, oh my gosh, I can't even hold the energy of this loss, or I can't even hold the energy of this failure, or I can't even energetically hold this. But somehow you do. And somehow every day the pain gets a little less, and you keep walking yourself forward and you keep loving yourself through it. And all I can say is for anyone going through really tough times right now is you just have to hold yourself with kid gloves and just love the shit out of yourself. You just have
yes.
to be your best friend and allow yourselves to cry. And I've had those I've had those hard cries in the closet when no one's looking. You know, I think we've all had those moments where we suffer, and I'm so much like you. Like, I don't want the world to be burdened by my problems, or because we're so used to showing up for others, right? So there were so many times where we felt alone. I'm sure you can relate to that, or even
Oh,
overwhelmed, or even like, oh my gosh, I can't do this. But
yeah.
somehow we keep getting up and doing it and getting through it, and then
Every day, Wendy, you're so right. And to be, I mean, when you say kid gloves, like, yes, live, just love the shit out of yourself. How? Right? Moment by moment. Remind yourself, the way I'm talking to myself right now, would I say that to my best friend? Would I say that to my child? No. Then don't say it to yourself, right? Now, all that is like, this has happened. Have I had other things happen? Oh my gosh, I will never end, right? Like, my partner and I are no longer together. That was hard, right? He went through such a huge stage with me during these transitions in the home and the fixing and the selling and and then realizing I'm here and I'm like, it's different, right?
the relationships are so challenging because they all show up right on time. Like it's a soul contract, right? I'm going to help we're going to be together and foster this growth through this experience. And it's always so hard when it's time to separate. It's so hard, right? Because your heart is so in it and it's not what you expected to happen. And
Right.
yet at the same time, everyone knows it needed to happen and it happened right on time. It's like this paradox, right? Because you know what? We always know the truth,
Hmm.
don't we? Our
I'm
heart
trying to
always,
hold it
our heart never lies, right? And so even though we're breaking and we're suffering, those tears, they're coming, but our heart never lies. We always, but the truth doesn't make it any easier, does it?
in. Definitely not. It doesn't, and you're right. Things fall into place when they're supposed to, right? And in whether you're good with it or not, you're like, no, not now. Guess what? It is now.
We don't always get to
Surprise.
control that, right? But we get to
And
control
as a,
how we respond.
Wendy, we weren't supposed to cry today. We had said this um, early on.
You're doing
Um,
so beautifully, Liliana, though. One thing I love about you is the strength you have, this incredible inner strength. You have this light inside of you. Liliana and I met during our life coaching certification classes years ago. And it's one of those things where you kind of just tune into people. People light up for me, and it's like, and you're going to be my friend, and you're going to be my friend. And that was just such a beautiful experience, us coming together. I'm so glad we're still friends today. But you have been so inspiring to me to watch your journey and see your evolution, and not only that, but your Hispanic community,
Mm.
your clients. You have done such a great job of just always overcoming adversity, rising stronger. You're just an incredible, incredible woman. Like, I'm so grateful to call you a friend.
Thank you so much, Wendy. And to hear it is always, maybe not, it's validating, but it's appreciated, because there's something about someone else acknowledging it. And you're right, when we met in San Diego that weekend, I just thought, just know energetically, I need to connect with this person. And we did. And I see you and I hear your podcasts, and I read the items that you send, and I just think, wow, this woman is so amazing. Like, just things that flow from you and just the way you connect. Sometimes I'm like, I know you're just writing to me, right? And I'm
Yeah,
sure
I
you
think we
are.
share the same heart, because I think our work and our words are really just expressions of us, right? Our souls, like when we're really aligned, like how you're saying, when you're in front of your group and you're just so lit up and you just know that that's your lane, there's just nothing that can stop you, because you're just really expressing and living your truth in such a powerful way. It's just, you're just almost sharing your soul with whoever your audience is at the time, whether it's your group clients or your private clients or your clinic employees, being a director. It's I think alignment is such a huge part of this journey, don't you? Learning to align with our truth and walk this path in integrity and honesty. And you're so spot on when you're talking about boundaries.
Boundaries, and that goes back to the alignment part. And I always, for me at least, my thought and my practice is, what am I, what was my purpose? What's my purpose here on earth? Because I've asked that question, Wendy, of myself probably since I was about 7 or 8 years old.
You don't think you're living your purpose? You're doing
No, yes, and because there's things that, like, I know one of my purposes was to have my 2 boys. I know. I know without a doubt, because Dad and I weren't even supposed to date. I gave him my wrong number. My girlfriend with me was like, "That's not your right number." And I was like, and he's like, "Ha ha ha, okay, give me your right number." And I was like, "Oh my God." And then, now I'm like, why did I give him my right number? And then we spoke, and he was great, and we dated, and our 2 boys came of it, and then my baby was 30 days old, and we were done. I mean, if that wasn't meant to be, I don't know what else is, right? So I feel like there's different little purposes. And once you accomplish one, you're like, and next? And where am I supposed to be today, right? So aligning with your truth, why am I here, right? What's my purpose today? Is it just to feel my feelings today? Is it just to be with myself? Do I need to disconnect from anything and everything to be with me? Yes, today that is what it is. And then tomorrow, it might be like just being the life of the party on a Zoom girlfriend get together, because that's where I'm at tomorrow, right? But there's the bigger purpose, and then there's like your little daily sort of pieces or breadcrumbs to get you to where you're supposed to be.
What lights you up? Like, what do you feel is your what's your spark? What really what do you think it is in your day-to-day life that you do that you just lose all track of time or all sense of time?
Creating. Funny, as I earlier shared, I never thought I was creative, right?
And then
But
that's your jam, is being creative.
What's wrong? What this is creating, you know, putting my room together and make it feel beautiful and homey and my sanctuary is a creation. Wait, I'm great at so when I'm creating, whether it's a poster board for like how I'm gonna run a group, if it's creating, even in the moment when a client calls me and says, "Hey, I don't know what to do with this," I was like, "Oh, have you tried this?" And I'm thinking, "Oh my God, where'd that come from?" Right? Like from like the
It's so
things like
instinctual for you, right? It's just kind of downloading and coming through you. And it's so amazing, right? When that happens and they're like,
yeah,
and then you can feel that that really stuck and had impact for them.
yes, yes.
Like, oh my
All
God,
those
they just got that. That's so awesome, right?
yeah, and to see you get it, I was like, "Oh my God, what, that resonated? Oh, well, I don't know where that came from." And I catch myself doing I, so for me, I feel it's very gut driven.
Yes.
I'll tell a lot of clients, I might not be the therapist for you. And I want to be upfront about that because we all need different things at different times in our lives. So if there's anything about me that you feel like, oh, it's not a good, connection, I will not be hurt, heartbroken if you decide to go elsewhere. I'm actually going to be really happy with you advocating for yourself in that manner. And
Right.
they're like, oh, okay, thank you. And then they're like, oh my God, this is what I needed. This is what I needed, right? So in that creation mode, in those moments, because your process is your process. I'm only there to navigate, usher in a couple of different ideas. Nope, didn't work. Great. Next, right? But it's the creation process for me. It's been that I keep noticing that when I'm painting, like I might be painting a wall and I'm just like in the zone for whatever reason, or I'm redoing the cabinets in my bathroom and I'm thinking, the color, the vanity, the here, the mirror. Oh, and I put right in the zone, like wherever it is, if I'm creating at work, if I'm talking about just got off a meeting, we're talking about this family, and the thoughts are boom, 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 they just flow out, creating a new plan. It's always in the creative mode.
I love that. And I think I'm hoping that people are using a lot of this extra time to do just that, to find something that they can create, whether it's writing or taking up a new instrument or whatever it is, find that spark, find that creative energy, because when we're in that space and we can tap into that zone,
It's the
it's
best.
magic,
It is.
like
It
magic.
is. I always say, I ask my clients, what sets your soul on fire? Right?
Yeah, what sets your soul on fire? That is such a great question to
What
ask
sets them?
ourselves,
And
right?
they're like, oh,
They're like, what are you talking about?
right, what is that? And what do you, right? And then eventually it comes to when I'm in this or when I'm doing around, right? Great. How do we continue with that? Because sometimes we think we don't know because we think what we think makes us happy, we get into our heads. Oh, but my mom's not going to be happy about that. That's not going to make me any money. But they
That
told me, oh,
is
that.
such a huge point, is so many people are living a life that's not their own. They're living a life to show up for someone else's expectations at their own expense. And that is such a betrayal of our soul, to always be compromising pieces of ourselves. I did it for years. So I know all about this firsthand. Guilty, so guilty. There's some power that comes from just bringing all those fractals back into your
Yeah.
self that you've given away. That every time you kind of compromise an aspect of yourself to make someone else happy, you're literally cutting a little piece of you away, giving
You
it
know,
away.
you know how I refer to that in therapy sometimes? I heard this from Coop Blackson. You commit soul suicide.
Soul suicide. That is,
Oh, I heard
wow,
that.
that's so rich, so true.
That hit me like a ton of bricks when I
Wow.
heard it because I was in such a space at that time that I didn't know why I was unhappy. I was in school. I was graduating, my kids were great, I was blah blah blah, I had a job, I had a home, but why am I not happy? And then things happen for a reason. Turned on a podcast, Mr. Coop Blackson was on there, and within like a minute of whatever, because I didn't jump in the beginning, he says soul suicide. And I thought, and then he goes on, I thought like, that's interesting. And then he goes on to explain it. And I thought, oh,
There it is.
that's what I've been doing.
Oh my gosh.
Right? That's what I've been doing this whole time.
That's
I'm
the
living
aha
for
moment.
everything. That was an aha. Oh, huge.
And then when you have the aha moment and you know it, you can't unknow it. You can't unsee it. It's like, boom. Once those realizations come, you have to go forward and do something about it. You just cannot medicate it, bury it, ignore it. It's like, it's so in your face. It's so right there. It's so true. And you're like,
every time I feel anxiety coming up, like, I don't want to say, oh, I suffer from anxiety. I think we all have anxiety at different times for different reasons. But when it just becomes this chronic, like, I feel it in my chest, and I'm like, that's in my soul. I'm like, what am I not living? What am I not living? What am I killing off? Right?
yeah.
Talking, conversing, having conversations, being creative. Anytime that I'm so stagnant on like X, Y, and Z because of work or whatever it is that maybe I'm not happy with a situation, I know I put off my creative stuff. I know I put off wanting to do what I want to do. I know I put off all this, and then I feel it.
And you got to get curious, right? And be like,
what is that about?
All right, what is this? Where's it coming from?
Where is it coming from?
And what do I need to invite in to heal this?
Yep.
Or become more whole and complete, right?
Yeah.
That curiosity piece. The awareness is huge. And then that curiosity piece about going like, well, I know something's off. So let me just sit with myself and figure out. Give ourselves permission to do that, right? To create space, not 3 minutes in the bathroom. It has to be a little more than that. You have to sit with yourself and get curious and be like, where is this coming from?
Yep.
And then you can move forward. Well, go ahead.
That's the trick, because one thing is like, oh, I need X, and then you're like, okay, I can't because I need to go shopping and like you know what it is, and then you put it off. Okay, well, guess what? It's going to continue to bubble up, right? It's not only sitting with yourself, really checking in. What is it that I need? I'm missing this. I haven't been creative in a while. I haven't ran a group in a while. I haven't checked in with my girlfriends in 6 months. Whatever it is, whatever that rises, the point is, and the trick is, don't put it off. Don't put it off. Don't put everything else in front of it and make you last. Don't put it off. What part of that can you do that'll spark something, right? A 2-minute phone call with a girlfriend because you haven't touched base, right? Getting creative on a notebook and saying, you know what, the next group that I have is going to be on this topic, and these are going to be the weeks, and I'm going to get back to it, but something is down. Do something about it.
Right. Even if it's a small incremental step.
Exactly.
Just but commit to something.
Exactly.
So we need to just, like we said, love ourselves, be present for ourselves, and become our best friends. Treat ourselves like we are our best friends. What would you do for your best friend? Well, you'd probably do something pretty phenomenal if you were doing something for your best friend. So why not do that for yourself? Buy the flowers. Eat the good chocolates. Go on that brownie. Go on, eat that brownie. Don't encourage me. I haven't had my brownie yet today. But there's so much out there. This is such a rich topic. I might have to have you back on so we can deep dive a little bit more. But Liliana, it's been such an honor to have you as a guest. I'm so glad we got to connect and share some time together today. Do you have any final words of wisdom for people who are maybe going through? I'm sure you're seeing some themes in your clients, maybe just a little nugget of wisdom to help people kind of navigate these challenging times?
Sure. I think in reference to just a lot of the conversation that we've had, the theme that I see a lot is communication, effective, positive, strength-based communication, right? Set aside the criticism. Set aside what didn't please you of an action. Set that aside. Set it aside and saying, you know what, they were trying to do X. What can I see good in this? Obviously, there's all sorts of situations that can happen. But if we were to set aside our own, being in the place that we are, tired, frustrated, irritated, the pandemic, work, non-work, too much work, not enough work, driving, not driving, whatever it is, set it aside. Somebody's talking to you, your child, your partner, your parent. Set it all aside. They frustrate you, whatever it is. Look deeper. What are they trying to tell me? I always say, listen to understand, not to respond.
So
Listen to understand.
listen to understand and not to respond. That's an art form. That takes a level of mastery. And
I haven't mastered it. Do I try? Heck yeah, I try. I remind myself, okay, wait, you're going into defense mode. Stop. There's moments that I'll take notes. I'll pull up. I'm like, I'm not on my phone. I just, because I need to connect to something for me. I want to be present, which seems very counterintuitive, but it's like they're telling me they need more time with me. They're telling me I didn't appreciate X and I'm like, oh no, but if you hadn't done X, then I wouldn't have done. And then no, stop.
There's no winner in that exchange, right?
Yeah. So I'm like, okay, what are they trying to tell me? What are you trying to get? Okay, understand. Listen to understand. Listen.
Well, that is such perfect advice. Well, Liliana, thank you so much for joining me today. I just love you so much. I know the audience is going to get so many wonderful nuggets of wisdom from you. To my audience, thank you for joining us. I love you all. Be kind to yourselves. Love yourselves. Go eat that good chocolate. Phone a friend. Get on your own team.
Buy flowers.
Buy yourself flowers. And I love you all. We'll see you later. We'll see you next time. Bye.